Kando.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Tēnā tātou katoa e te whare, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Mr Speaker, I have not been a member of the committee that has worked on this bill, but I do want to begin, as others have done, by acknowledging the very fine work of a very fine MP, the member for Wairiki Te Ururoa Flavel. It is always significant to be the member who is sponsoring a bill, and particularly as the local member, given the historic significance of this particular measure, I know that it will be a matter of some pride to him to have reached this point, and I acknowledge his very fine effort in the area. I also want to acknowledge the members of the Select Committee, as others have done, who have worked tirelessly on this bill. They've considered the submissions that were made on it, and they've referred the bill back to the House with the recommendation that it should be passed with certain amendments that reflect the submissions that they considered, particularly up in Tauranga, where they met with a number of the submitters, or submissioners, as I notice Hansard refers, or MPs in days gone by always referred to submissioners rather than submitters. Particularly so, I'd like to acknowledge the Honourable Tau Henare, who has, I think, been a very fine member of this House, who has done a very good job as the chair of the Select Committee that has worked on this bill. And of course, yes, I think that's a wonderful acknowledgement from the Honourable Trevor Mallard that the Honourable Trevor Tau Henare is indeed a statesman. One of the statesmen of his era. And I'm sure that the Honourable Trevor Mallard will be happy to tweet that now so that the Honourable Tau Henare can retweet it and it will go to a cast of thousands. But I do agree with his acknowledgement. But in all seriousness, sir, I think it is worth acknowledging that the Honourable Tau Henare entered this House 21 years ago. He has served as both Minister of Maori Affairs in a previous administration and as the chair of the Maori Affairs Select Committee under the administration of the Right Honourable John Key, and he can be proud of what he has achieved. He can certainly be proud of what he has contributed to the excellent work of this government on treaty settlement issues, and of course we'll be back here in the morning doing further work on this, and this bill is related very much to the sentiment of what is at the heart of the treaty settlement. I do also want to acknowledge those groups and individuals from the iwi who made submissions on the bill. As I've mentioned, the committee travelled to Tauranga and heard from 8 of those submitters during the hearings in Tauranga, and the committee took seriously what they had to say, and a number of amendments which will be considered in more detail in the committee stage of this debate have arisen as a result of those deliberations. Assuming that the bill therefore carries on through the second reading today, the committee stages and its third reading to its final enactment when it receives the royal assent, that will be a very significant and mana-restoring achievement for the Otamataha Trust and the hapu of Ngāti Tapu and Ngai Tamara Waho. There is also added significance to this particular development in this year of 2014, because just last week, as members in the House no doubt are aware, and many who may be listening or watching this debate at this moment will have seen on the television, there was the 150th anniversary of a very significant event as the Battle of Gate Pa was commemorated by iwi and the Crown. So I wasn't able to attend that particular commemoration, but I did have the privilege just a few weeks earlier of attending a similar event marking the Battle of Orakau near Kihiki in the Waikato region. And the significance of that event, and I think most of the people I'm about to mention were also at the commemoration in Gate Pa last week, was underlined by the presence that day of Kingi Tuheitia, our Governor-General Sir Jerry Mataparai, the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable John Key, Her Excellency, the British High Commissioner, Maori Affairs Minister, the Honourable Peter Sharples, many civic leaders, the sponsor of this bill, of course, and other dignitaries. So that was a very memorable, dramatic and hot day. Waikato at that stage was still in the grip of the drought that we experienced over the summer, and I have to say it was one of the most moving and intimidating Werus I've ever seen, as there was a reenactment of the challenge on that day. The dust was being kicked up everywhere, It went on for a considerable period of time, and I had to say, as I say, it was one of the things I will remember long after I have left this house. But so back to Tauranga and to this New Zealand Mission Trust Board Otamataha Empowering Bill. So it is an area for which I have a particular affection, having resided there for a period back in 2002 and 2003. In fact, our family lived very near Tauranga Hospital, which is just a very short distance from the site of the Battle of Gate Pa, and there is, of course, a historic monument there around which the commemorations last week took place. My younger daughter attended Gate Pa Primary School before going on to join her sister at Tauranga Intermediate School, and we all have very fond memories of our time in that city and the region, although I have to say I don't have quite such fond memories of the reason why I was there, because, sir, as you will well recall, it was when I was the National Party candidate for Tauranga in the 2002 election, which wasn't a great time to be a candidate in any part, for National in any part of the country, but in particular in Tauranga. And I think there's a certain irony because, sir, I am effectively taking the New Zealand First call in this debate, and I think that it's sort of payback because the New Zealand First Party, or the candidate that won, W. Peters, effectively took my votes in that election. So I do want to say well done to both Bob Clarkson and Simon Bridges for repaying my debt to society. But, so to summarise, this bill transfers land in Tauranga and other property from the New Zealand Mission Trust to the Otamataha Trust, so that it can be used for the beneficiaries of that trust. It's not a charitable trust, but the beneficiaries are effectively the hapu of Ngāti Tapu and Ngāi Tamarawaho. It comes, as I've said, at a significant time of the anniversary, the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Gate Pa, and the Otamataha Trust has been established by the hapu of those of Ngāti Tapu and Ngāi Tamarawaho to own and manage land and other property which was acquired through the historical common interests of those hapu in Tauranga. So the Church Missionary Society, or CMS, was established in Tauranga back in 1835, 5 years before the Treaty of Waitangi. So it's had a very significant role over a long period of European settlement in this land. And in 1838, the Church Missionary Society bought 2 blocks from Tangata Whenua on the site which is effectively where the city of Tauranga is today. But that was a transaction that was never accepted by Tangata Whenua as a sale of the land to the Church Missionary Society. In 1867, the Crown acquired as a gift from the Church Missionary Society 4/5 of the land which had been vested in the CMS by Crown grant in 1852. And military settlers were settled on it. The land was surrounded by confiscated Maori land, which was also settled. So it is right that these historical grievances are now being recognised in this particular measure. In 1896, the remaining land was transferred from the CMS to the New Zealand Mission Trust Board, which held the assets of the board on trust for the spiritual benefit and spiritual instruction of Maori people in the North Island of New Zealand, or, failing that, the evangelisation of heathen races in any part of the world.
Gracious me.
Extraordinary, just over a century ago. And it was exactly a century later that the New Zealand Mission Trust Board handed back control of the land to the new trustees who were appointed by Ngāti Tapu and Ngāi Tamarawaho. This was done in recognition of the manner and process by which the land was originally acquired from Tangata Whenua. So the land itself is now the land on which those who are familiar with the area will recognise occupied by the Trinity Wharf Hotel. And the Trust collects ground rent from that hotel. It has always been the intention of the 2 trusts that it be changed so that the 2 hapu can benefit from it. However, the conditions cannot be changed by any other way other than through this legislation. And so that brings me back to the point where I started, where I acknowledge the fact that it is the member for Waiariki, Te Ururoa Flavel, who has done that work, who has liaised with local iwi, who has liaised with the Crown, and who has brought this ultimately to the point where today it looks as if finally this matter is going to be resolved. And so, sir, it is a privilege for me to be able to speak on it, and I have great pleasure in supporting this bill.
Members, this debate is concluded. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
New Zealand Mission Trust Board Otamataha Empowering Bill, second reading.
In accordance with the determination of the Business Committee, this bill is set down for third reading next sitting day. Call on Members' Order of the Day number 1.
Electronic transactions contract formation.